So the current state of Star Wars. I mean, I'm a big Star Wars fan. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest, but I do love Star Wars, especially the original trilogy. I can remember the first time watching it. So there's these things, kids, listen up. Come here a little bit. Things called laser discs. Yes, laser discs. You might not even know what that is. So back in the day, there's these things called CDs, and they're this big, and they would have music on it. And this was revolutionary in the 80s. And because before that, you had tape. So if you wanted to listen to a tape, you had to manually rewind it. This one, you could instantly skip between. So they thought, why don't we do what CDs do with music, but with movies? So then we had CDs for movies. But these CDs were like this big. They're this big. So I remember my dad came home with a Laserdisc player. This had been early 90s, maybe like 91, 92. And comes home with a Laserdisc player because this is going to be the new technology. And he bought some movies. He bought Jurassic Park, and he bought Star Wars, the original trilogy. 1, 2, and 3, or 4, 5, and 6. Anyways, so he bought those, and each Laserdisc had each box set, or I don't know if it's not box set, it's like each movie was like 4 Laserdiscs. You had to have one, and then you'd have to flip it over, and then it was done, and then you put on another one, and you had to flip it over. Very weird, very weird. So a lot of like flipping and changing. So I don't remember where they would make the cut on the movie. Like thinking about it, it's like, can you imagine it's like at the climax of some part, and then they're like, it froze, please flip over. Oh, terrible technology now that I think about it, awful. So DVDs came out and just destroyed that. Laser just never really caught on anyways. Probably for that reason. And they're very expensive because they had to make them at scale. If you make more at scale, they would have got cheaper. But I think DVDs were around the corner in maybe 95 or 97 or something like that. So they never really caught on. Even though Laserdiscs existed in the 80s, they just never caught on. Just probably for that same reason. It's just you had to flip through them. Anyways, I remember bringing it home, and we watched it then. I was a little kid. And I remember loving it back then. And then, I want to say in the mid to late 90s, they re-released everything with the George Lucas like special edition, let me add in all these extra monsters and things cuts. And I think that's also when he switched when Han Solo didn't shoot first. Anyways, but the Laserdisc, if I can remember correctly, are the exact theater cuts. So it's like those are the only places you can actually get the original theater cuts because George Lucas had cut everything else up and changed everything a million times. So, which I don't even think we have anymore. There's no way we have those. There's no way. Maybe. And so then I went to the theater and I rewatched all the original trilogy. This had to have been before Phantom Menace came out. And then Phantom Menace came out in what? 99, I think, somewhere around there. But yeah. So, anyways, pretty big Star Wars fan. I watched the prequels all in theater, and then Disney came along and bought it, and I was like, oh, awesome, that's great because they're doing fantastic with the MCU. So we're gonna get a new trilogy, and so, see, I wanted to start this video ranting and raving and not caring. Ranting about how I don't care. I just ranted in another video, so I figure I'd keep it going. So this is going to be another ranting video. But I also don't care. I also love to rant. So me ranting is a sign of me caring, but at the same time not caring. I have not liked really anything the Disney Star Wars has done. I know there's this new show called The Acolyte out, and I have zero desire to watch it. I even got rid of my Disney Plus because I got it for the MCU Disney Plus shows and the Star Wars shows. That's literally why I got it. And I found myself not watching any of them because I didn't want to. I didn't like it. It was just not worth my time. So then I canceled it. But then they came out with X-Men 95, which was fantastic. But I watched that online. But anyways, the Star Wars Acolyte. From what I gather and the things I've seen and the things people have talked about, I mean, I really don't care. I know I have friends that are fans and they think that if you're a fan of something, you have to be a fan of everything. So they watch everything. And I remember talking to my friend, and he was talking about it was a Marvel movie, and he's like, oh, it's the best ever. I was like, the best ever is garbage. He's like, no, 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 no. I was like, rank it with all the other MCU movies came out. And he put it at the bottom. I'm like, see, there you go. He's like, no, no, it's the best ever. And I'm like, that's not me. I'm very critical. And just because I'm a fan of something doesn't mean that I have to go along with your crappy movies and crappy TV shows. I'm sorry. I don't have to. Just because I don't want to watch it does not make me not a fan. And I think what I'm just a fan of is I'm a fan of Star Wars. And Disney Star Wars is not Star Wars. Disney Star Wars is, I don't know what it is, but it's something else. It's not Disney Star Wars. It's not Star Wars Star Wars. It might take place in the same universe. It's kind of like if I wrote a Spider-Man comic book about Spider-Man on his ventures and, he's beating up the Green Goblin. Is it a Spider-Man comic book? Sure. But is it by Marvel? Is it in the continuity? Is it in the same universe? No, it's not. So these Disney Star Wars, I consider it just bad fan fiction. That's really what it is. And I didn't watch most of it. Okay, I'll tell you when I stopped watching. Because I watched The Force Awakens. I was so excited. I had to wait in line. I can't remember when it came out, 2015 or something like that, 17 or whatever year it came out. I had to wait in line to get tickets because for some reason, back then, my theater did not have like assigned seating. It's like Stone Age. I mean, when I watched Star Wars, the original trilogy, in theaters when they re-released it, because I couldn't watch it before in the 70s because I wasn't born yet. But when they re-released it, you had to wait in line to get a ticket like the day before or early in the morning, whenever they release tickets, then come back and wait in line again just to get a seat. And you might not sit together. That's old school. I mean, now I just go on my phone, sign seating, there we go, boom, done. But back then, it was much harder. And it was uphill both ways, snowed the whole time. Flat tires all the time, so we basically had to walk. Didn't have any shoes. But anyways, I watched Force Awakens. I was pretty stoked. After I got out of Force Awakens, I was like, I don't think it was very good. Now, everyone ever was saying how great The Force Awakens was, but I saw the cracks in it. I was like, this is not very good. This feels weird, and why would they make these decisions? And a lot of these decisions don't make sense and aren't pretty dumb. And I saw a lot of flaws. But everyone's like, oh, I made $2 billion. Oh, people were just so excited to see anything Star Wars. You could have had a movie with the original crew. I'm talking about like Princess Leia and Luke and Han and Chewie and all that kind of stuff. And the story could have been that Luke drinks too much of that green milk. He gets diarrhea so bad that they have to travel the galaxy and find a way to cure him. That could have been the story, and it still would have made billions of dollars. It didn't matter. You could have that's what people are like, well, I made $2 billion. That doesn't mean anything. The reason why I made $2 billion is the success of the previous ones, and people would have watched anything. Anything with the name Star Wars on it, they would have watched. So that doesn't mean anything. I don't care. It made $2 billion. That means nothing to me. It means nothing. You want to know what means more to me? Is if you had $2 billion worth of fans, the first one, The Force Awakens, sorry. The next one, which was, I don't even remember the name of it. The next one is The Last Jedi, The Last something. I don't even remember what it was. I think it was The Last Jedi. Yeah, Last Jedi, Return of Skywalker, Revenge of Skywalker, whatever. The next one should have made at least $2 billion or more. But what happened was the first one made 2. The next one dropped to 1.5, and then the next one dropped to 1. As you can see, it was just going down and down and down. What does that tell you? That fans checked out. I will tell you that the second one, I did not go to the theater to watch because I saw some problems in it that I did not like. And so then I watched it when it came to whatever streaming or whatever it came to. I watched it then, and the first one, I was disappointed. The second one, whatever it's called, Last Jedi, I don't know, the one where they have Luke Skywalker and he just dies. Made me angry. It just made me angry. The first one, I was like, I don't know. The second one, it just made me angry. It made me so angry that I was like, I didn't watch the third one, The Rise of Skywalker. I had zero desire. And from what I could tell, people didn't like it either. And I had zero desire because I'm like, why would I go into something that's just going to make me mad? There's no point. There's no point in wasting money, my time. The money's not the issue, it's the time. I don't want to waste like 3 hours, driving there, all that kind of stuff, just to watch a movie that's just going to make me mad and upset. There's no point, no point. And so I was like, I'm not going to watch the next one. I'm glad I didn't. So then I was like, whatever, I don't care about this Disney Star Wars. Then I think they came out The Mandalorian next, or they had Rogue One. I did watch that in theaters, but that came out between 1 and 2, and that was okay. I haven't watched it since then, but I remember walking out of the theater kind of liking it. I did watch the Han Solo one, and I didn't like it. And then The Mandalorian came out, and I liked it. I was like, this is Star Wars. This is the first time in all of the Disney Star Wars that I was like, this feels like Star Wars. It felt like Star Wars, season 1. And then I watched season 2. Still great. Loved it. Season 3 was not very good. Turned it off. I was like, what's going on here? I don't know. Also, I watched The Book of Boba Fett. That show was so stupid, so dumb. I'm like, you have Boba Fett, who's supposed to be one of the greatest bounty hunters of all time. And what do you have him do after he gets out of the Snarlack pit? Pit. What does he do? You're like, oh, he didn't even get eaten. First of all, he's aged terribly. He must have been in that pit for years. And he got fat. He's all like his body armor got barely fitted. It's like, come on. You can't make the actor lose a few lbs? Come on. He had like his big stomach, and it just like his big old plate. Anyways. Snarlack pit. Anyways, so he gets out. What do you have this greatest bounty hunter of all time do? I'm going to sit in Jabba's empty palace alone, where he has his little minion. And we're going to talk about local politics. That's what I want a bounty hunter show to be about, local politics. I understand that they're like, well, we already have the Mandalorian. He's kind of like a bounty hunter. And I get that. But Disney Star Wars has this problem where they just can't make bad people bad. Just make them bad. They don't have to be good. They don't have to. There's bad people out there that literally go out and murder tons of people because they want to. All the time. Happens all the time. Just look at the news. Anytime there's someone getting murdered. There's bad people out there. You don't have to make these misunderstood villains or misunderstood heroes or whatever. Just make them bad. Just make them bad. I don't care. Make him, he's a bounty hunter. You know what bounty hunters only care about? They only care about money. That's usually what they only care about. They care about completing their task. Like, that's what made The Mandalorian a little interesting. He was, whatever his, I can't remember anymore. He's trying to get his armor back or something. I don't know. But anyways, he fell in love with this little pet, basically, this little Yoda, and it kind of changed his heart. So that was kind of his arc, his story. So cool. That's a little different. They obviously couldn't do that again with Boba Fett, but you made him go into local politics. Oh, talk about bore. No, what? Oh, here we have Star Wars, guys. We need some ideas. How about Boba Fett? He's a fan favorite. People love Boba Fett. He's probably one of the most, like, unused characters that everyone loves. And like, yes, how can we make him work? Well, he's dead. What if he didn't die? Ooh, that's interesting. So when he went in that pit, he actually didn't die. Ooh, yes, that's very good. Okay, so we'll bring him out of the pit. Perfect. That'll set up a story. So what are we going to have this bounty hunter do? He'll go on bounty trips. Well, we kind of did that with Mandalorian. You're right. What are the kids into these days that they really love? TikTok? Well, we can have some people ride some motorbikes. Oh, that's kind of interesting. We'll put that in one episode. What could we have them do? I know, local politics. That's what everyone loves, local politics. So dumb. I turned it off. I couldn't stand it. I turned it back on just to see The Mandalorian. He had like a really cool fight scene. Cooler than anything Boba Fett did in his own TV show, where he grabbed the guy, stabbed him on the table and stuff like that, and chopped off his head or something like that. I'm trying to remember exactly. Loved it. I think I did a review of that one episode because I thought it was so cool. What did Boba Fett do? I have no idea. He didn't do anything. He complained. Always complaining. Oh, I need to get back to my tank. Oh, I need my regeneration tank. I'm like, oh, shut up. Complaining about every little thing. So stupid. Then you have this little stick that he's like, oh, I got to train with sand people. I'm like, oh, so dumb. Worst show. And so then I was like, whatever, I'm done. And then Obi-Wan came out. I watched up to the point where I felt like I was watching a cartoon from like the 90s or something, like a made for TV Christian cartoon where these bad guys that are, these trained assassins are running after this little girl in the woods. Whoa! And running, and they can't catch this little girl. So stupid. And that's when I was like, yeah, I'm done. So I'm done with Star Wars. So I kind of just like giving up. So they came out with a bunch of other stuff. I know people said to watch Andor, and I'm like, I don't know. I just don't have the willpower to care anymore. So I just don't really care. I'm still a Star Wars fan. I just feel like kind of like Jurassic Park. The best one was number 1. After that, they changed the tone. So I'm still a Jurassic Park fan, but I'm just not a fan of any of the new stuff. I sound so hipster. It's like, oh, I like the band's old stuff. It's just different. It's just not even the same. And I just don't have any desire to watch it. I know they're coming out with a Rey movie. Don't care. I don't know what else they're coming out with. Who knows? They've made like 1,000 different TV shows and movies and then never made them like they planned on them. And we're coming out with this next year. We got this director and this blah, 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 blah. Kathleen Kennedy is literally the worst. The worst. She's awful. She's so awful. Oh, she just needs to fire her. Just get rid of her. And people are like, oh, she's such a good producer. She worked on you. I don't care. I don't care. Being a producer, meaningless. Doesn't mean anything. Or an executive producer or whatever. It all depends how much control you have. If you're a producer for a film, and say a Steven Spielberg, do you think the producer's telling Steven Spielberg what to do? Or James Cameron? Oh, actually, with Avatar, you should actually do this. He'd be like, shut up. No, you don't do anything. You sit in the corner and you be quiet. You don't do anything. It depends how much power you get. So I don't care if she's worked on all these films and she's such a great producer and George Lucas personally handpicked. I don't care. Maybe he slept with her at one point and he was like, oh, here you go. I don't know. So anyway, she's awful. She's terrible. She's terrible. She doesn't even know what she's doing. She can't even, just makes me so mad. It makes me so mad how you're giving this franchise, and this is what you're going to do. You're like, okay, so we have this franchise. We're going to make a new trilogy, and then we're going to have spinoffs and all that. That sounds great. Okay, what is your path forward for the first trilogy? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? What are the characters? I don't know. Who cares? We'll just make one of them a girl and be a Jedi. That's all I know. Okay, so have you found a director? Yeah, each one's going to be directed by someone different. Okay, so we're going to have different tones for all of them. Yes. Okay. So what's your plan? Do you have a script or kind of like an overarching theme that's going to happen with this? No, we'll just see how it goes. So each individual movie will be written by individual people with no overarching theme. Yeah. Okay, so what's the first one? We're going to have this big bad villain. It's going to be kind of like the New Hope and all that kind of stuff. Okay, cool. And that big bad villain is going to be the villain. And the third one, right? Well, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, the next director, he's coming on, Rian Johnson or whatever his name is, and he's going to actually change everything that we did in the first one. And the fans are going to like this. Why? Oh, because there's a female lead. Okay. So then the second one, that one bombs. So it lost money compared to the first one. So now what are we going to do for the third one? Well, now we'll bring back the first director and bring him for the third one. But I thought you said originally that we're going to have 3 different directors written by 3. Yes, I know, but I realized that was an error on my part. And so, well, actually not my part. It's actually the toxic fan base. It's their problem. That's the reason why. So we'll go back to the first one because the first one Force Awakens did make $2 billion. Okay, I can see where you're going with this. Okay, let's put the director on there. But now he has to fix everything that he did in the second one. If you would have just had the same director for all 3, what is that movie that franchise that was really good? Not Star Wars, but it was really good and won Oscars and people really liked it and they wanted to make him another trilogy. Was it called Lord of the Rings? Didn't that have one director who oversaw the entire thing? Didn't it? Yes, it did. Oh, interesting. Maybe you could have thought of that first. Done something like that instead of this seeing where the wind blows and that's how you're going to do things. She is the worst. Anyone out there that says she's not that bad, blah, 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 you're dumb. I'm sorry. She's horrible. Anyone that comes into a franchise and says we're going to rebuild it, or not rebuild, to like continue on this massive, the biggest franchise in all film cinematic history, the biggest. Let's get real. Star Wars is the biggest. The biggest. They literally had comic conventions dedicated to Star Wars. Yeah, they have comic conventions, but comics are vast. This is one thing. So Star Trek, I guess that's a big one too. Anyways, so you have someone come in who's going to overtake this franchise, one of the biggest in the whole world, and she has no plan. No plan. She doesn't have this. These are the characters, and these are going to be their overarching throughout the 3 movies. This is what's going to happen. Kind of this, jot in some points. They're going to meet the villain here. Maybe they battle him here. Maybe they defeat the villain, but there's another villain that's the bigger villain or whatever it is. None of that. None of that whatsoever. Also, the thing that drives me insane, Carrie Fisher died in real life. In real life, before they finished the movie, number 2. In the freaking movie, she gets sucked out of an airlock, and you're like, okay, maybe they just let her die. She died in real life, so they can't put her in the 3rd one. So then this is how she dies. She dies in a battle, and it's a sad day for everyone. No, she gets a brand new force power and comes back to life, zooms through space. I'm like, she died in real life. This would be the perfect time to kill off the character because she died in real life. Harrison Ford didn't want to do anything, so he's like, you better kill me. Mark Hamill, I don't even know what happened to him. He wasn't in the first movie, comes in the second movie, and then he dies no matter what. And I was like, what was the purpose of that? Like, so many bad decisions over and over and over and over and over and over and over. So I don't really care about the Star Wars anymore. But that's the current state of Star Wars and the current state of my fan base, how I feel about this current Star Wars stuff. Let me know how you guys feel. I'm sure no one's watching this by now, just watching some cranky old guy ranting about Star Wars and where he's at in his life with Star Wars. Have a good day.